I still remember that evening like it happened only yesterday. It was just another routine night for me and Maria, or at least, that's what I thought. Our marriage had always been decent, not perfect but good enough. At least, that's what I told myself. After all, Maria was beautiful, successful, and we had a life together, 2 kids, a house in the suburbs, and the kind of stability most people envy. But that night, everything changed. It began with something small, a text message. It was nothing out of the ordinary, or so I thought. Maria had always been on her phone, checking messages or scrolling through social media, but she never seemed too attached to it. That evening, however, her demeanor changed. She was more distracted, more aloof. She went from being the woman I knew to someone unfamiliar, someone distant. I asked her about the message, trying to keep the conversation light. "Who's that?" I said, pointing at her phone with a casual smile, trying not to sound suspicious. Maria barely glanced at me before quickly swiping her phone screen, as though she had something to hide. "It's nothing," she replied, the words flat, dismissive. "Just work." I should have let it go. I should have. But something in her voice, something in her eyes didn't sit right with me. That's when I felt it, the first nod of doubt. Maybe I was just paranoid, but I couldn't ignore it. The next few days felt like an unraveling thread I couldn't put back together. Maria's late-night work calls became more frequent, and she was always out of the house, claiming it was for some project or business meeting. I didn't buy it. It wasn't until I walked into the kitchen one morning, bleary-eyed from lack of sleep, that I found the first real piece of the puzzle. There, sitting on the counter, was her phone. A single notification on the lock screen. "I miss you so much. I can't wait to see you again tonight." The text wasn't from a colleague, it wasn't from a friend. It was from someone named Jake. My heart stopped for a moment. Jake. I'd never heard of him before. I quickly unlocked the phone, my fingers trembling. The message thread went back weeks. Photos, flirty texts, plans to meet up. There was no denying it now, Maria had been seeing someone else. I stood frozen in the kitchen, the reality of it crashing down on me. I wasn't prepared for this. Not Maria. Not my wife. She had always been the one who seemed so devoted, so perfect. But now, I was faced with the ugly truth, my wife was cheating on me. I slammed the phone down on the counter, the sound echoing in the empty kitchen. The anger built inside me, hot and overwhelming, but I couldn't act on it just yet. I needed to confront her. I waited. Hours passed, and I tried to keep my composure, even though my mind was a war zone. Every time I heard a car pull up, I jumped, hoping it was her, but also dreading it at the same time. When Maria finally came home, it was like she walked through the door with the same careless smile she always had, as if nothing had changed. But I knew. I knew everything. "You've been busy, haven't you?" I asked, my voice low, steady, but the storm inside me was already raging. Maria froze, her eyes widening for just a split second. She quickly masked it with a chuckle, trying to play it off. "What are you talking about?" She tried to sound nonchalant, but the crack in her voice betrayed her. "The texts," I said, cutting through the air like a knife. "Jake. Who is he, Maria? Who the hell is Jake?" She went pale. I could see the guilt, the fear flashing across her face. But she recovered quickly, like a master manipulator. "Oh, God. Not this again," she said with an exaggerated sigh. "It's nothing. It's just some guy I met through work. You know how I get when I'm stressed. It's not like that." I stared at her, trying to understand how she could lie so easily, how she could look me in the eyes and feed me such a pitiful excuse. I could feel my blood boiling, the anger rising like a tidal wave. She thought she could fool me. She thought she could lie her way out of this, but I wasn't that stupid. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to listen to her pathetic justifications anymore. I was done being played for a fool. But I wasn't done yet. I was going to make her own up to what she'd done. The silence between us stretched out, heavy and thick. The air was suffocating, and for a moment, I couldn't even hear my own thoughts, only the sound of my blood pounding in my ears. I stood there, staring at Maria, waiting for her to say something, to give me a real answer, but she remained quiet, her eyes darting nervously around the room. She had the audacity to act like this wasn't happening, like she wasn't caught red-handed. I could feel the rage building inside me, but I held back. I wasn't going to lose my cool, not yet. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me unravel completely. "You know," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos in my mind, "I don't need to hear your lies. Not anymore." She opened her mouth to speak, but I raised a hand to stop her. "I saw the messages, Maria. I saw everything. You can't talk your way out of this one." I could see the color drain from her face as she realized I wasn't playing around anymore. Her usual confident, calculating demeanor slipped for just a second, and it was enough to confirm that she knew exactly what she had been doing. She knew she had been caught. "It's not what you think," she said, her voice wavering for the first time. "Jake, he's just a friend. I've been stressed lately, and we've just been talking. That's all." The way she said it, so casually, so dismissive, it made my skin crawl. She still thought she could play me. I could feel my jaw tighten as I stepped closer to her. "A friend? Really? Is that how you're going to play this? You've been talking to him, Maria? 4 weeks?" I took another step forward, making sure she felt the weight of my words. "I know about the pictures. The plans. You can't lie your way out of this anymore," I continued, my voice low but firm. "You've been seeing him behind my back, and don't try to pretend it's not true." She flinched, the truth hitting her harder than any argument I could have made. But she wasn't going to give up that easily. She recovered quickly, her face twisting into something that resembled anger more than regret. "God, you're such a drama queen," she spat, throwing her hands up in the air. "Do you really think I care about you finding out? You've been so caught up in your little, special forces world that you never noticed me slipping away. I haven't felt alive in years, and now I'm finally getting what I deserve. So, sorry if I didn't come running to you to make everything perfect again." I stood there in shock for a moment. Her words cut deeper than I thought possible. She was right. I had been distant, focused on my work, on things that didn't matter. But I had never imagined that it would lead to this, her turning so cold, so heartless. The woman I thought I knew had become someone completely unrecognizable. But then, something in me snapped. Anger, heartbreak, confusion, all of it converged in a single moment. I stepped forward, grabbing her by the wrist. "You don't get to talk to me like that," I growled, my grip tightening. "You think you can just tear our life apart and not face the consequences? You think it's all so easy, so fun? Well, you're wrong." Maria's eyes widened, not with fear, but with a strange mixture of disbelief and defiance. For a brief moment, I thought she might finally admit it, that she might drop the act and show some remorse, but instead, she threw a quick, venomous smile at me. "Let go of me, you coward," she hissed, twisting her arm out of my grip. "You're not tough. You're not some hero. You're just a man who can't handle the fact that I don't want you anymore. So go ahead, break my arm, or whatever it is you think will make you feel better. You're nothing but a pathetic loser in my eyes. You've never been enough for me." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. They weren't just a rejection, they were a complete dehumanization of everything I had been, everything I had done for her and our family. But just as quickly as the anger had risen in me, it turned into something else. Sadness. Heartbreak. The realization that I had been living in a fantasy, convinced that our marriage was something it wasn't. I felt like I was sinking, drowning in the weight of it all. She wasn't the person I thought she was, and it felt like I was losing myself in the process. But there was something else bubbling underneath the surface, something darker. I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. "You want to destroy everything, Maria?" I said, the words cold and hard now. "Fine. But I'm not going to let you walk away scot-free. You're going to face this, whether you like it or not." I could see the faintest glimmer of fear in her eyes now, but she quickly masked it with a smirk. She was trying to play it off, trying to keep her control, but the damage had already been done. She could lie, she could play games, but I had seen through it all. I wasn't the victim anymore. Now, I was the one holding the power. The tension in the room was suffocating. I stood there, Maria's words echoing in my head, the sting of her insult still fresh. For a moment, I considered walking away, leaving her and the house behind, just letting the chaos of it all wash over me. But I couldn't. I wouldn't let her think she could walk all over me without facing the consequences. I had loved this woman once, and part of me still wanted to believe that there was something left to save. But after everything I had learned, it was clear that I was fighting a battle I couldn't win. "I'm done talking to you," I said, my voice shaking with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "I'm done listening to your lies." Maria scoffed, flipping her hair over her shoulder in a move that felt more like an act of dominance than a casual gesture. "Oh, please. You act like I've wronged you, but you're the one who's been absent for the last 5 years. You were too busy chasing your stupid, special forces fantasies to even notice I was suffocating in this relationship. So spare me the 'poor me' act." Every word she spoke felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. But something inside me shifted, a new kind of clarity taking over. I wasn't going to let her keep tearing me apart with her selfishness and lies. If she wanted this to be over, then fine. I would let her have it. But she was going to see the full weight of her actions before she did. "I don't care anymore, Maria," I said, my voice a little quieter now, but still firm. "You want out? Fine. But you're going to have to go through me first. You're not going to destroy me like this. I'll expose everything you've done, everything you think you've gotten away with." Maria's eyes widened for a moment, and I saw the flicker of panic behind her normally composed exterior. She was no longer in control, and it terrified her. For the first time, I saw her vulnerability, her mask cracking. "You can't do that," she stammered, her usual sharpness replaced with uncertainty. You wouldn't do that to me." I leaned in, my face inches from hers. "Oh, I will. I'm not afraid of you anymore, Maria. And I'm certainly not afraid of the truth." I could feel the power shift in the room. She had always been the one with the upper hand in our relationship, playing me like a fool with her lies and manipulations. But now, she was the one on the back foot. She could try to deny it all she wanted, but I knew what she had done. And now, so did she. "You're disgusting," she spat, her voice rising in anger. "You really think you can just ruin my life, huh? You think that because you found out, you can just turn everything upside down? You're pathetic, you know that. You'll always be the guy who couldn't keep his woman satisfied." The venom in her words hit me hard, but I wasn't about to let her push me to the breaking point. I had already been broken. Now I was just picking up the pieces. "I'm not doing this for revenge, Maria," I said, my tone darkening. "I'm doing this because you need to understand what you've done. You think you can just throw me away and move on with Jake, but you're wrong. I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly who you are, who he is, and what you've done to this family." Maria's face twisted into a sneer, but the confidence she once had was gone. "You wouldn't. You're weak. You've always been weak. What are you going to do? Tell everyone about my affair? You think anyone will care? They'll just laugh at you, pity you for being so stupid. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I just stared at her, the cold, bitter reality of the situation settling in. For years, I had been nothing more than a pawn in her game. A man she could manipulate and discard when it suited her. But now, it was my turn to take control. You don't get it, do you? I said, my voice low and calm, almost eerily so. This isn't about revenge. It's about my dignity. It's about me finally standing up for myself. I'm not going to let you walk away from this unscathed. Maria's eyes narrowed as if she was calculating her next move. I could see her mind working, trying to figure out how to regain control, how to salvage some part of her pride. But deep down, I knew she was scared. For the first time, she was facing the consequences of her actions, and she didn't know how to handle it. I turned away from her then, walking toward the door. I'm done, Maria. But I'm not leaving until I make sure everyone knows who you really are. Before I could step outside, I heard her call after me. You're going to regret this. You think you're strong, but you're not. You'll be the one looking like a fool in the end. I didn't turn back. Her words felt hollow now, like the last gasps of a dying relationship. I had already decided what I needed to do. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me anymore. It wasn't about winning. It wasn't about making her suffer. It was about reclaiming my life. I knew what was coming next. The confrontation with Jake. The fallout. And the ugly truth that would be exposed to everyone. But nothing could prepare me for the moment that would change everything once again. I wasn't sure what I was expecting when I walked out of the house that night, but I knew one thing for sure, it was the beginning of the end. Maria had made it clear she was never going to admit to the depth of her betrayal, but I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not without facing the consequences. I drove in silence, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. The rage and heartbreak from the confrontation were still fresh, but now it was mixed with a sense of determination. I had to find Jake. I needed to see his face, to confront him, to make sure he knew exactly what he'd done. Jake wasn't hard to track down. Maria had been careless, and in her arrogance, she hadn't thought to cover her tracks completely. I knew where he worked, a high-end bar downtown. A place she'd often mention when we went out on date nights, but it was always a convenient excuse, a place to get away from me without ever saying why. When I pulled up in front of the bar, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I had already envisioned this moment 1,000 times, but it felt different now that it was real. The idea of confronting the man who had been sleeping with my wife, the man who had stolen everything from me, it was unsettling. But there was no going back. I walked inside, scanning the room. It was dimly lit, with soft jazz playing in the background and a handful of people sitting at the bar. Jake was easy to spot, tall, fit, with a dark buzzcut and a confident smirk plastered on his face. He was leaning against the counter, chatting with the bartender as if nothing was wrong, as if his whole world wasn't about to come crashing down. I approached slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. It was like everything around me went quiet. The chatter, the clinking of glasses, the music, it all faded. I could only focus on Jake. He noticed me first, his eyes narrowing as I got closer. The smirk on his face faltered for a split second, but he quickly regained his cocky composure. "Can I help you, man?" he said, his voice dripping with false innocence. I didn't answer him right away. Instead, I let the weight of the moment hang in the air. I could feel the eyes of the other patrons on me, but I didn't care. They were irrelevant. Only Jake mattered now. "You think you can just waltz in here and take whatever you want?" I said, my voice a low growl. "You think I wouldn't find out?" Jake's expression shifted, the initial confidence melting away, replaced by something colder. "What the hell are you talking about, man?" he said, his voice flat, but there was a nervous edge beneath it. "I don't know what you think you know, but you're mistaken." I threw the phone down on the bar between us. It was Maria's phone. The same one she had been texting him on for weeks. The same one I had found those messages on. The one that had led me straight to him. Jake's eyes darted to the phone, and for a moment, he froze. But then he laughed, a sharp, mocking laugh that sent a chill down my spine. "You really think this is about some damn phone?" Jake sneered, his tone turning aggressive. "You think I care what you found out? Look at you. What, you thought you could keep her all to yourself forever? She chose me, man. She came to me. And you know what? I'm better for her than you ever were. So, you can keep whining and trying to play the hero, but you'll always be the guy who couldn't keep his woman happy." That's when everything hit me like a freight train. The words, the arrogance, it all finally made sense. This wasn't just an affair. It wasn't some random fling. Jake wasn't just a side piece. He was playing the long game. And Maria? She had been playing me from the start. For a moment, I felt completely paralyzed. I had no idea how deep this had gone, how much she had plotted and schemed behind my back. It wasn't just betrayal. It was manipulation. She'd made me look like the fool while she strung both of us along. But then something shifted inside me. I could feel the anger rise again, hotter, sharper. I wasn't just going to stand there and let him gloat. I wasn't going to let him think he had the upper hand. "Do you think this makes you a winner?" I said, my voice now cold, cutting through the air like ice. "Do you think you're the one who gets the last laugh? You're just a pawn in her game, Jake. You always were. And when she's done with you, when you've outlived your use to her, she'll toss you aside just like she did with me." Jake's eyes darkened, and for a moment, I saw the mask slip. But instead of backing down, he leaned in, his face inches from mine. "You don't get it, do you? She's my choice now, not yours. You're the past. I'm the future. So why don't you just do yourself a favor and walk away?" Before I could respond, the bartender came up, sensing the rising tension. "Hey, guys, let's keep it civil, all right? We don't want trouble in here." Jake backed off, but his eyes never left mine. "You should have stayed home and let her be happy," he said with a smirk. "You're too late." But the words didn't hit the way he thought they would. I felt no satisfaction from putting him in his place. In fact, all I felt was a gnawing emptiness. Maria had chosen him, and there was nothing I could do to change that. As I walked away from the bar, I realized something that shook me to my core. I had spent all this time fighting for her, trying to hold on to something that wasn't even mine anymore. I wasn't just losing my wife. I was losing myself. And there was no getting that back. I didn't know what I was going to do next. But one thing was clear, everything I thought I knew about love, about loyalty, it was all a lie. And now, I was left to pick up the pieces of a life that had never been real. I sat in my car, staring out the windshield at the city lights twinkling like little false promises in the distance. Everything felt unreal, like I was trapped in some sort of nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. I had confronted Jake, I had confronted Maria, but the weight of it all still didn't make sense. There was no relief, no satisfaction. It was like trying to dig your way out of quicksand. The more I struggled, the deeper I sank. I could feel my phone buzzing in my pocket. It was Maria. Of course, it was. She probably thought that by sending a few cute emojis or begging for forgiveness, I'd just come running back. She always had that effect on me, making me feel guilty, making me feel like I was the one in the wrong for even questioning her. But not tonight. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I didn't even want to hear her voice anymore. Not after everything she'd done, not after everything she'd put me through. I knew I had to face her again, but I wasn't sure I was ready for what was coming next. It was almost an hour later when I finally decided to go home. I pulled into the driveway, my heart sinking into my stomach as I stared at the house. The house we had bought together, the house we had built our life in. It felt like a prison now, like everything inside it had been tainted by her betrayal. The walls, the furniture, the bed we'd shared, it all felt like a lie. I opened the front door, stepping into the dimly lit foyer. I could hear movement upstairs, and my heart thudded in my chest. Maria was home, but I had no idea what she wanted now. She had already pushed me to my limit, yet here she was, waiting for me to forgive her. I climbed the stairs slowly, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the empty house. The door to our bedroom was slightly ajar. I hesitated for a moment before pushing it open. Maria was sitting on the edge of the bed, her back to me. She was wearing a robe, her hair messy like she had been crying. She turned when she heard me, her eyes wide and filled with something that looked like panic, or was it guilt? It was hard to tell. She stood up quickly, brushing her hands over her face as if trying to wipe away the remnants of her carefully crafted facade. "I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean for it to get this far. I didn't want to hurt you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was sorry? After everything she had done? The affair, the lies, the manipulation, and now, she was standing there like the victim, like she had some kind of remorse? "No," I said, shaking my head, my voice rough. "No, you don't get to say that now. Not after everything. You don't get to say you're sorry and expect me to just forget. You made your choice, Maria. You've been making it for months. You've been lying to me, using me, while you were with him. You don't get to turn around and act like you're the one hurt." She took a step toward me, her hand reaching out as if to touch me, but I pulled back, instinctively avoiding her. I didn't want her to touch me. Not like this. "Please, don't leave me," she begged, her voice breaking. "I never wanted to hurt you. I love you. I just got lost, and I didn't know how to fix it. I don't want to lose you. Please, we can fix this. We can start over. I'll make it right." The words felt empty, like they were rehearsed. I had heard them too many times before, every time she got caught, every time I confronted her about the lies. And every time, she'd promise things would change, that she'd make it right. But she never did. I stood there for a moment, my emotions swirling in a chaotic mess. Part of me still wanted to believe her. Part of me wanted to hold on to the woman I had once loved, the woman I had thought I knew. But the other part of me, the stronger part, knew better. I had been a fool, and I wasn't going to let myself be one again. "Maria," I said, my voice low, but steady. "This is over. It's done. There's nothing you can say that will make me forget what you've done. You made your choice. And now, I'm making mine." Her face twisted with disbelief, her eyes wide with panic as if she couldn't fathom what I was saying. "No. Please. You can't just throw everything away. We had something real, didn't we? We had a life together." I felt a pang in my chest. Part of me still wanted to believe that, too. That we had something real. But it wasn't real anymore. It had all been built on lies. The foundation was shattered. There was no going back. "You broke it, Maria," I said, my voice growing colder. "You broke it, and you can't fix it now. I'm done." And with that, I turned and walked out of the room. I didn't look back. I don't know why I went to the garage. Maybe I just needed to get away from her, away from the chaos of everything. But as I walked past the car, I saw something that stopped me dead in my tracks, a letter, folded neatly on the seat. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I should even bother reading it. But something inside me told me that I had to. This would be the final piece. The last bit of the truth. I opened the letter, and as I read the first line, my heart sank. I'm sorry. I never meant for you to find out like this, but I couldn't keep living the lie. I never wanted to hurt you, but I can't be with you anymore. It wasn't from Maria. It was from Jake. And as I read further, I saw something that made my blood run cold. I told her I was going to be there for her, that she would never be alone. But now she's gone too far. I can't keep doing this. I'm not the villain here. I'm not the one who ruined everything. She was never yours to begin with. And now she's gone. Forever. Everything inside me froze. Jake wasn't just some guy. He wasn't just a fling. He had been the mastermind. The real reason behind everything. And now, I was left to pick up the pieces of a life I had never truly known. I stood in the garage, the letter clutched in my trembling hand, my mind racing. Jake wasn't just some guy. He was the guy, the one who had manipulated everything from the start, using Maria to get to me, to ruin my life. The sickening realization hit me like a brick to the face. He had been planning this for longer than I'd ever known. All the pieces of the puzzle I'd been trying to put together now fell into place. Maria wasn't just a cheater, she was a pawn in his game. But why? What had he truly wanted? I crumpled the letter in my hand, anger surging through my veins, and shoved it into the pocket of my jacket. I didn't need to read any more of his pathetic justifications. He'd crossed a line I couldn't ignore. The front door creaked behind me, and I spun around, already anticipating the confrontation. It was Maria. I could see her shadow in the doorway, but I didn't want to face her. Not like this. You read it, didn't you? Her voice was quiet, strained. You found it. I didn't say anything at first. My eyes locked with hers, searching her face for any sign of guilt, any sign of remorse. But all I saw was desperation, as if she was hoping I would give her a chance to fix everything. You knew, I finally said, the words coming out low, cold. You knew this whole time that he was using you, didn't you? You didn't just cheat on me, Maria. You betrayed me. You and him, together. This whole thing was a game to you both. She winced, as if I had slapped her. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. Don't even try to make excuses. I've had enough of your lies. You've lied about everything, about where you were, about what you were doing. And the worst part is, you never thought I'd find out. Her face turned pale, but she quickly recovered, her eyes narrowing as she crossed her arms. I never wanted to hurt you, okay? I didn't want any of this to happen. But I was lonely, and he made me feel wanted. You didn't care about me anymore. You were always working, always distant. I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen. You think that justifies what you did? I barked, stepping closer to her. You left me, you gave me no chance. You used me as a backup, and now you're standing here playing the victim. You're not a victim, Maria. You're a liar, and now you're trying to make me feel sorry for you. Her eyes welled with tears, but she didn't cry. No, she was too busy trying to control the situation, to manipulate me one last time. I could see it in her posture, the defensive way she held herself. You're right, she said, voice shaking with feigned vulnerability. I've made mistakes, but I didn't mean for any of this to get so out of control. But we can fix it. Please. I'll leave him, I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. I scoffed at her words, disgusted. You can't fix this. You don't want to fix this. You just want me to be the fool again, to accept you back like nothing happened. Well, I'm not doing that. I'm done with you. I'm done with this life. She froze, eyes wide in disbelief. "You're leaving me?" Her voice cracked, as if the thought had never crossed her mind. I didn't say anything at first. I just stared at her, taking in the woman who had once meant everything to me, now reduced to this. She wasn't the person I thought I knew. She never was. But before I could respond, the sound of a car door slamming echoed from outside. It wasn't just any car. It was Jake's. I turned toward the window, my heart pounding. I could see the silhouette of someone walking toward the house, and as the headlights of the car flicked off, the figure stepped into the yard, silhouetted against the porch light. It was Jake. He was here. Maria's face drained of color. "No, no, no, no," she muttered under her breath, her voice frantic. "He can't be here. He shouldn't be here." I didn't wait for her to say anything else. I stormed toward the door, yanking it open, and stepped out into the night, the cool air biting at my skin. Jake was walking toward the front door, his confident stride as smug as ever. "Jake," I called, my voice low and full of menace. "What the hell are you doing here?" He stopped, a smug grin plastered across his face as he sized me up. "Thought I'd come pay a visit," he said, his voice dripping with arrogance. "You know, I figured it's time we talked, man to man." "You're not welcome here," I shot back, taking a step toward him. "I don't know what game you're playing, but I'm not interested. And if you think I'm going to just roll over and let you walk all over me, you're wrong." Jake chuckled, stepping forward as well, as if he found the whole situation amusing. "Look, man, I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to get involved in your messed up marriage. But she chose me, all right? You weren't there for her. You were too busy doing whatever it is you do." I clenched my fists, the urge to hit him overwhelming, but I didn't want to stoop to his level. "Not yet. Why don't you just go back to your little game, Jake? You've already won. You've got her. You've taken everything I care about. Just leave me the hell alone." Jake took a step closer, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling confidence. "Oh, don't worry, man," he said, his tone darkening. "You'll get yours. Maybe not today, but you will. Because I'm not finished yet." With those last words, Jake turned and walked back to his car, leaving me standing there, staring after him. I could feel the weight of everything pressing down on me, the betrayal, the lies, the crushing sense of defeat. But as he drove away, I realized something that sent a chill down my spine. This wasn't just about Maria anymore. This was a war, one I wasn't prepared for, but one I would fight until the very end. The night was cold, but the fire burning inside me felt like it could melt through the steel of the world. I stood there, watching Jake's car disappear into the distance, my hands balled into fists. The air smelled like wet pavement, but it wasn't the rain that had soaked my soul. It was the betrayal, the sting of knowing that everything I had once believed in was a lie. Maria, Jake, the life we had shared, it was all part of their twisted game. But as I stood there, seething with anger, a thought clawed at me. I wasn't just angry anymore. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was ready for something else, something deeper than revenge. I wanted answers, not just from Maria but from Jake too. There was no way I was going to let them get away with it. I turned and headed back into the house, determined to confront Maria one final time. But when I walked through the door, it was silent, eerily silent. The house felt different, like something had shifted in the very foundation. Maria was gone. Her things were gone too. I felt a rush of cold dread wash over me. My first thought was that she had fled, maybe with Jake. But then I spotted something on the kitchen counter, a small, crumpled piece of paper with handwriting I recognized. It was from Maria. "I'm sorry, but I can't stay. I've made my choice, and it's not you. I wish I could tell you more, but I know you'll never forgive me. I'm leaving. I'll be gone by the time you get this. Please don't look for me. I couldn't believe it. She had left without a word, just like that. After everything, after all the lies, all the pain, she had vanished. The final insult. I crumpled the note in my hand and threw it to the floor, a strange sense of numbness washing over me. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt nothing. No anger, no pain, no regret. It was like I had reached the end of the emotional roller coaster, and now there was nothing left but silence. I stood in the empty house for what felt like hours. The walls seemed to close in around me, and every creak of the floorboards echoed in my ears like a warning. It was over. Maria had chosen Jake, and now, she had disappeared. But that didn't mean I was done. I pulled myself together, wiped the sweat from my forehead, and grabbed my jacket. I wasn't going to let this go. I had to find Jake. I had to make him understand the cost of his actions, the consequences of what he had done to me. He thought he could play me like a fool, but he was wrong. The next few hours passed in a blur as I tracked down every lead I could find. I drove through the city, checking places where I knew Jake would hang out, but I couldn't find him anywhere. I was getting desperate. My thoughts were starting to spiral again. What if I never got my answers? What if Maria really was gone for good, leaving me with nothing but shattered memories? It wasn't until late that night that I got the break I needed. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. My first instinct was to ignore it, but something made me answer. "Hello?" I said, my voice hoarse. "Looking for something?" a deep, gravelly voice replied. I froze. It was Jake. "You think you can just get away with this?" I spat, fury rising again in my chest. "You think you can just walk in and ruin my life and then disappear? What did you really want from Maria, huh? What the hell is going on?" There was a long pause on the other end of the line, followed by a laugh, a cold, calculating laugh that sent a chill down my spine. "You really think this is about her, don't you?" Jake said, his voice dripping with amusement. "I'm not some love-struck fool who wanted her. She was just the means to an end, my friend." I felt a surge of confusion. "What the hell are you talking about? You ruined everything. You manipulated her. You used her to mess with me. Why?" Jake's voice shifted, becoming more sinister. "I needed you to see the truth, man. You've been living in your little bubble for far too long, believing that everything was fine. But it wasn't. I showed you the cracks. I made sure you'd see them. I didn't understand. The whole thing felt like a twisted game, and I was the pawn. And now?" I asked, my throat tight with emotion. "I'm not done with you yet," Jake said, his voice low and threatening. "You'll see. I'm not the villain here. You've got it all wrong. Maria isn't the one who hurt you, I am. And there's more where that came from. This isn't over. It's only just beginning." I felt a cold sweat break out on the back of my neck. What the hell was he talking about? Why was he doing this? What did he want from me? "You think this is over?" I asked, my voice trembling with rage. "You think you can just play with people's lives and walk away? I'll find you, Jake. And when I do, you'll regret this." "You're free to try," he said, and with that, he hung up. I stood there, staring at the phone in my hand, my heart pounding in my chest. My mind was racing. This wasn't just about Maria. It wasn't about a cheating wife or some affair. It was something deeper. Jake wasn't just trying to ruin my life, he was trying to destroy me. To tear apart everything I thought I knew about myself. Suddenly, the weight of the situation hit me. I wasn't just fighting for answers anymore. I was fighting for my own survival. Jake wasn't going to stop until he had taken everything from me, until he had twisted everything until there was nothing left. And as I looked at the empty streets outside, I realized that this wasn't just a fight for my marriage. This was a fight for my very soul. The next few days were a blur. Jake's words echoed in my head constantly, gnawing at my sanity like a persistent itch I couldn't scratch. He wasn't finished with me. It wasn't just about Maria or her lies. No, this was bigger. And every time I thought I was getting closer to understanding his twisted game, he seemed to stay 2 steps ahead. I started reaching out to people who might have information, old friends, acquaintances, anyone who might have crossed paths with Jake. The more I dug, the more the web seemed to expand. Jake wasn't some small-time player, he had connections. And worse, he had a mind for manipulation that was terrifying. One night, I got a call from an unknown number. My stomach sank as I answered, expecting the worst. "It's time," Jake's voice was chilling, calculated. "I'm giving you one last chance to make this right. You've got 48 hours. Make what right?" I shot back, desperate. "You've destroyed everything. My life, my marriage, all of it. What the hell do you want from me?" His laugh echoed through the phone, a sound that made my skin crawl. "I told you, this isn't just about Maria. You're the one who doesn't understand. You're going to have to choose. You're not in control anymore, but I'm going to give you a choice. You'll find out where I'm at. You'll find the place. Show up, and we'll talk. Fail to do that, and there's no telling what will happen next." Before I could respond, the line went dead. The fear I felt was suffocating, but beneath it, there was something else, a fire. Jake had pushed me to the edge, and now, I was done being afraid. I didn't know exactly what he wanted, but I wasn't going to let him control me any longer. If he thought I was going to cower, he was wrong. I wasn't going to let him win. Not like this. I spent the next day preparing, determined to face whatever nightmare Jake had in store for me. I wasn't walking into this blind. This time, I was going to outsmart him. I had to. I got into my car, the engine roaring to life under me, and I followed the cryptic instructions he'd left me. It wasn't easy. The further I went, the more isolated the area became. It felt like I was driving straight into the belly of the beast, but I couldn't turn back now. I had come too far. The place was abandoned, a warehouse near the edge of town. The kind of place that felt wrong the second you stepped inside. As I pulled into the lot, my heart hammered in my chest. Jake's car was parked near the entrance. I was here. I parked my car a distance away, keeping to the shadows. I wasn't walking into this unprepared. I'd already mapped out escape routes, and my mind was racing with options. But the question remained, what exactly was Jake after? And more importantly, what had I gotten myself into? I approached the warehouse cautiously, every nerve in my body alert. As I stepped inside, the door creaked loudly, and my footsteps echoed in the cavernous space. The only light came from a few dim bulbs hanging overhead, casting long shadows against the walls. I didn't have to wait long. From the shadows, Jake emerged, his face twisted into a grin. He was exactly how I remembered him, confident, self-assured, but there was something darker now, something unsettling about the way he looked at me. "You came," he said, his voice dripping with mock approval. "I wasn't sure you would. I thought maybe you'd be too much of a coward to face me. But here you are." "Enough games, Jake," I said, my voice low and steady. "What do you want? What are you trying to do to me? To my life?" Jake took a step closer, the smirk never leaving his face. "It's not about what I want. It's about what you're willing to do to get your life back. You think you can just walk away from everything? You think you can just let it all go without paying a price? I don't think you understand what's at stake here." I clenched my fists, trying to hold back the anger that bubbled up inside me. "You've already taken everything. My marriage. My dignity. My trust. What else is there? Jake's eyes narrowed. I'm not here to talk about your marriage. I'm here to finish this once and for all. You're standing in my way, and if you want to live the rest of your life free from me, you'll have to make a choice. A chill ran down my spine as I took a step back, my mind racing. What do you mean? I've been playing this game for a long time, he said, his voice turning cold. But there's one thing you don't understand. You don't just get to walk away. Not from me. Not from what's happened. You owe me, whether you like it or not. I knew then that I had no choice but to face him. This wasn't just a fight for my marriage, it was a fight for my survival. There was no way I could go back to the life I had before. But what would I do next? How would I beat a man who was so determined to destroy everything in his path? Just as the tension reached its peak, the door to the warehouse suddenly crashed open. In the doorway stood Maria. Her face was pale, her eyes red from crying. She had followed me here, and for a moment, I thought I had imagined it. But there she was. Stop! Maria cried out, her voice breaking. You don't understand. Jake's not the enemy here, he's not the one who's been playing this game. I am. Jake's smirk faltered, his eyes flicking toward her. Maria, what the hell are you doing here? She stepped forward, her face filled with a mix of fear and resolve. I've been lying to you both, she said, her voice trembling. Jake didn't ruin everything. I did. I was the one who pushed him to do this. I was the one who chose this life. I stared at her in disbelief. After everything, after all the pain she had caused, she was standing here telling me this? The realization hit me like a freight train. In that moment, everything shifted. Maria hadn't just been another victim. She had been an active participant, feeding into Jake's manipulation, encouraging the lies, and now, here she was, trying to undo it all. But it was too late. You made your choice, Maria, I said, my voice cold. And so did I. I turned my back on her and walked toward the exit, leaving Jake and Maria to sort out whatever twisted version of reality they had created for themselves. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about freedom. I had been consumed by rage for so long, but now, I understood. I had to let go. And I would. No matter what it took. As I stepped into the night, I realized that this was the end of one chapter, and the beginning of something new. Something I could control. And that was the most important thing of all.